Here I am complaining about this shit. Yeah, I'm complaining. I'm not really. I'm curious as to what other people's school of thought on this is, right? So I very specifically chose all the gear that I was going to get from my mage to not interfere with other people getting their set bonuses and all this stuff. And then I find out today, like, I got passed over for the mage trinket off of Morgrim Tidewalker. And I'm like, well, that's just, like, kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because I had been top damage on Alar, like raid, like top damage period. You know what I mean? On a couple of these things, top mage damage, top damage on another fight, top damage on Voidwalker, top damage on um, Kael'thas, not Kael'thas, the Sunstrider guy, Solarmancer, whatever the fuck his name is. Uh, and then I was, for 2 weeks now, I've been top damage on like a couple of these fights. Uh, top mage damage, if not like really close to top damage. And then I was top damage on Kael'thas like a week ago, then this week I died on the fight because I didn't get healed, unfortunately. But consistently, top mage damage, there's one other mage that is like, we're like neck and neck on some of these fights. And last week I forgot the fucking flask on Alar and I still had top DPS. And then I had top DPS on Solarmancer, then I had top DPS on Voidwalker, and then I died on the goddamn final boss. This week, and last week I forgot to, I had my PvP gloves on Hydros, and was still like, I was like, neck and neck, I was down by like 1,000 or 2,000 damage to be top damage for that. And, but I was also top damage for Vash, I was top damage for Leotheris, I was top damage on Morgrim. So so of all the 6 fights there, we had like a tie, but he technically won and all this stuff. Well, I went through all of this and I'm like, why the fuck would they prioritize? And not to mention, I'm alive at the end of almost every fight for the most part. I have more consistency staying alive and all that shit. I'm like, and I'm consistently top damage. I'm like, why would they pass over me on a second piece of loot? Mind you, I don't have my four piece set bonus. And, I'm like, well, they passed over me on the mage trinket today. I was like, well, fuck, man. Like, what reasoning is there for it? Because based on, like, my damage meters, I've been consistently, like, the best performer currently in our guild, it seems, right? One of the best, as far as, like, consistently top damage and all this other stuff, right? And I look at the goddamn parse logs, and I see that, like, well, because I was just going by and I'm not making excuses, but going by the damage charts, it turns out that the parse logs, they don't count like AoE damage on boss fights and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I get that, but even on some of the fights where they do and don't, I'm still consistently top mage DPS, right? When I looked through the logs, though, it showed that the parse percentages were way higher, and I'm like, the reason, and I'm not making excuses, but like this, what I found out is this is like, I guess, the criteria that they're using to give people loot. And I'm like, well, I've been going by what I thought to be what the raid leader said that they wanted, which was, well, don't worry about parse as much as it is do the boss fight, do it correctly, which includes AoEing the ads and killing the shit, not dying and sheeping and doing all this stuff correctly. I'm not saying anybody else isn't doing that, but, and then come to find out, like, as much as they say that, it seems like the thing that they look at kind of is what the parse log says. I'm like, okay, well, given that, I can sit there and say, yeah, for sure, the guy has done a better parse percentage than I have, but to consider that, not to make excuses, but I had no fucking clue that's how they were going, that's how they were deciding things, unless there's another reason. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, what do I need to improve then to make that not the case, right? I'm like, well, what you need to improve then is you need to not improve. You need to do something that isn't as helpful, which I believe is like, okay, well, when everybody says call for AoE the ads, just DPS the boss. If it, just be retarded, right? Yeah, I don't want to do that because I've traditionally, how I've learned to play WoW and have competed in some of like the world top rating guilds and stuff at some point in my life. That isn't necessarily how things were done. Now that the climate or whatever of World of Warcraft has kind of changed a little bit to where people are all about this parsing thing, but some of that requires you to basically just say fuck the important part. Like, and I consider it like sheeping, right? So when they say sheep the ads, right? Like DPS isn't important here. What's important is doing the thing that the mage is supposed to do, which is sheep the ads, right? So I consider like AoEing on boss fights that are heavy AoE fights to be the same as like that's like just like deciding not to sheep. You know what I mean? Deciding to just do whatever. And I'm not saying anybody else has done this, but the way I was playing, based on how I was playing, now I could very easily still just be getting out DPS on some of these fights. But even then, when I look at all this stuff, I realize I look at the thing and they're like, well, they're like all 88s, 92s, 93s, and all that. I didn't have my 2-piece set bonus until 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? So these real early on parses where these people are getting ranked like super high in DPS is because at some point in time they prioritized like first getting their 2-piece tier 4 or tier 5 rather. So their preferred parse number or whatever, if that's how it works, is like way super high because I chose to try and get like off spec pieces and only like try to get the 2-piece set bonus that I was going to use the 2 pieces long term. I wasn't going to just get whatever 2 pieces I could and then build on that. I had prioritized to get to hopefully by being a little more conservative with my loot to get preferential, like not to say preferential treatment, but to understand that like I wasn't just picking pieces of gear and choosing those to be my items because they were an upgrade. I was waiting to get the best piece, right? And even if it meant not having an upgrade for a while, that way there was no like, well, you had all this loot, now you want all this other stuff. So I'm not necessarily sour about it, man, but it did bother the shit out of me today. Like I thought for sure, because I'm like, I've kept up with the thing. You know, I look at the thing every boss fight. I'm like, about 7 out of 10 of the boss fights, top damage, if not top mage DPS, or not, if not top damage. Consistently, like neck and neck on a few. I did fuck up on Lurker Below today because I evocated it at the wrong time, but was top on Leotheris, neck and neck on Hydros, top on Bash, and then Karethresh is another fight where it's like they drop the totem, you attack the totem, you have to blink back and forth. The goal is not to top DPS, the goal is to make sure the raid doesn't wipe to the Spitfire totem, right? And I can sit there and say, like, consistently, you see me running back and forth, making sure, you know, so I'm just kind of like, I'm not more frustrated than I should be, you know what I mean? I'm not being petty about it. It's just, I was kind of like wondered, well, why? And so in my own estimate, I say whatever the system is flawed, you know, and I'm not going to sit there and argue with these guys who run the guild about it either, because it's their guild, that's how they choose to do it, but basically my choices now are, I don't have a 4-piece set bonus, so my damage is already going to be less. I'm not making excuses for the shit, it's a purely numbers thing. What I'm not going to do is sit there and say like, okay, well fuck it then, I'm not gonna AoE on boss fights and I'm gonna get top parses and then they'll give me all the loot that I want. I'm like, that isn't what it's about, you know what I mean? Because consistently, like anybody that's looking at the website to see the parse logs versus the people looking at the actual damage charts, like anyone that's watched my live stream will sit there and tell you that my fucking name's always at the top of the list, right? For the most part. So I'm like, I for sure thought I had this in the bag. Not to mention, not just that, the last piece of loot, the last few pieces, like he got prioritized the first 2-piece tier 5. Then he got prioritized the first 4-piece tier 5. Then he got the trinket. You know, I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to improve? Like, well, what you need to disprove, or not improve, right? You need, what the opposite of improve is say, fuck AoEing the ads and just DPS the boss. I'm like, yeah, that'll get your parse up. But I'm not going to do that because it's like kind of petty, you know what I mean? But it's, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make my case as to why I'm right versus trying to do it their way. I know I'm right because guilds that I knew that had world first and all through Blackwing Lair and like world first through Hyjal and all this stuff that were guilds that I was with, right? this is how we did it then. You know what I mean? And these were like the top tier, top quality players on the fucking planet, known for getting world first and stuff. And this was what we did, right? So I'm like, I cannot necessarily throw that in the garbage. Now that all these years later, they've created an add-on that basically tells you to neglect what it is that you're supposed to do during a boss fight in the name of looking pretty on a website, basically. So I got this shit on the oven, though. I'll be right back. I feel like a Mormon. You know, Mormons always try to teach you life lessons about shit. Like, if Susie does this and blah blah blah, and her brother loses her allowance or whatever, you're like, does Susie give her brother $1 or whatever? You're like, I'm not quite sure what this has to do about a giant whale eating some old guy or carrying stone tablets down from the top of a mountain or whatever. But yeah, I guess. Yeah, so I'm not trying to like be petty about it, but in all reality, it's like had I known, I would have done things. Well, even then, I probably wouldn't have done them different because I'm sitting there thinking like, well, parsing is one thing, damage is another, I guess. And to look through, and I noticed last week, I'm like, well, yeah, there's some of these, but I didn't pay attention to all the fights. I just know that when I do the boss fights, that my name's at the top of the list for the most part. Uh, More times than it isn't, right? God damn it, that hunter can still see. He's got aspect of the hawking on, bro. Leave me alone. But here's the thing: is like these are hills I'm willing to die on. Like I know it's like what 36-year-old man finds himself entrenched in such controversy, right? It's like it's lame as shit. I get it, man, but this is like what I take more seriously than anything. And I hate to be the guy, but last a few weeks ago there was like this big argument or contention. Like it hurt my fucking feelings to have a tank wipe the raid and then blame all the people that got killed by it. Like I could have been more familiar, like a safety net. Like think of a safety net policy. It's like, um, if your safety net fails, it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, but still, right? It's like you're required to carry the safety net. I'm supposed to have one on me just in case, right? It's like, yeah, so I didn't have my safety net in place, unfortunately. But the only reason why, like, you have to question if your entire raid is like you have all your best players all in the same group, right? And there's four of them out of five, right? And the tank is tanking the boss so that he jets the best group of players in your guild. All four out of five of them die, right? And I call it random RNG, and it is to a degree because it could have pathed either way. But the fact of the matter is, like, well, I'm not 100% familiar with the tank mechanics of that fight. Like, yeah, I guess I could be more familiar, but you as the tank should be familiar with that. And I'm not upset with the guy or anything. It should, I mean, it happens. He tanked it there the last few weeks, didn't have any problems. We swapped it to the other side, so, but just logically thinking, you're like, the thing rotates and it can go either or way. So the point is to tank it in a neutral zone, so then, um, no matter what,